Hi, I'm Jimmy. I'm the host of the show. Thank you for watching from your couch or your bed, or maybe you squeezed into the cage with your bird. I don't know. Either way, thanks. I bring you some good news tonight for a change. And the good news is this. Those are movers you see outside the White House, boxing him up. So that's good. But this seems suspicious. This happened today. An unidentified trio seemed to have made off with a bust of Abraham Lincoln. Is it possible that Trump is looting the White House before he goes? He's going to use that as a hood ornament on his golf cart. I tell you what, I would sign up for a streaming service that showed nothing but Trump stuff being moved out of the White House. I don't know how much I would pay a month, but it's a lot. POTUS himself has become increasingly isolated. As of late, the West Wing is reported to be sparsely staffed. Those who remain a part of the administration are avoiding coming into work. The White House right now has the feel of a Radio Shack in 2015. But remember 6 months ago, he was having his people call South Dakota to see if he could get his face carved into Mount Rushmore? Today, we learned more about that long overdue and heavily scripted video he released last night, finally denouncing the violence and asking for calm. You're not going to believe this. He didn't want to make that video. He had to be talked into shooting it and had to be talked out of going to the House floor to defend himself during the impeachment proceedings on Wednesday. Whoever talked him out of that, I'd like to wring his neck. Have you no sense of humor, sir? That would have been great. He probably would have been in prison today as a result of that. But instead of acting as his own legal counsel, Trump took time out from muttering yesterday to give a National Medal of Art to Toby Keith. Well, they told him it was Toby Keith. Actually, they just put a cowboy hat on a pumpkin and dimmed the lights. But there's a lot of gossip coming out of this White House. My favorite being that at one point, Trump considered resigning, but was afraid Mike Pence wouldn't pardon him if he did. Which, how great would that have been? Oh, did I say pardon? I meant garden. I said I'd give you a garden. Here's a hoe. Trump's mood has been described as sullen and vengeful. He's angry at his inner circle for not doing more to defend him. He's even lashing out at his number one dirty deeds doer, Rudy Giuliani. According to the Washington Post, Trump has instructed aides not to pay Rudy for his legal efforts to overturn the election on his behalf. He is amazing. Imagine he turns on Rudy. Working for Trump and expecting to get paid is like having dinner with Chris Christie and expecting a doggy bag. But Trump has reportedly insisted on personally approving reimbursements for Rudy's travel expenses, and Rudy's day rate is $20,000 a day. Money well spent. Trump doesn't want to pay that. He could have hired Gary Busey for $100 to do the same thing. That's a lot of money for an incompetent attorney. And you'd think for $20,000 a day, Rudy Giuliani would be able to afford shoes that don't look like he bought them at the Frankenstein store. But apparently he can't. They say Trump isn't even taking Rudy's calls anymore. Now the only way for Rudy to get through is if someone says his name 3 times in a mirror. I wonder who leaked this story. Maybe it was Giuliani's head. But this is what Trump does. Even if you don't jump ship, sooner or later he'll throw you off it. Rudy Giuliani traveled around the world. He went from being America's mayor to the parking lot of a dildo store trying to dig up dirt for Trump. The only dirt he could find was coming out of his hair. But what does he get for his troubles? Not paid for the work he did. Mike Pence had to bend over and stuff his evangelical Christian values in the little hole God tries to forget. Last week, his boss called him the P word and sent a mob of lunatics to kill him. And then there's Michael Cohen, who took out a mortgage on his house to pay off Donald Trump's mistress. What did he get? He got prison. Look out, Eric and Jr., you two are next. Lindsey Graham, on the other hand, is an interesting case. Remember last week when Lindsey Graham stood up in front of Congress and said, Trump and I have had a hell of a journey, but count me out. Enough is enough. Well, I guess enough wasn't enough because Donald Trump and Lindsey Graham are back together. They've had more breaks than Ross and Rachel, these two. They traveled to Texas together on Tuesday, and last night, the Golden Graham was right back at it, standing by his man.
The President of the United States was impeached today without one witness being called, without a lawyer present, and it's an assault on the presidency itself.
Spoken like a man who has a secret he would like Donald Trump to keep. And as weak and pathetic as this old guard is, the new crop of Trumpers is much worse. New Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene has a plan to impeach Joe Biden before he's even president.
I would like to announce on behalf of the American people, we have to make sure that our leaders are held accountable. We cannot have a president of the United States that is willing to abuse the power of the office of the presidency and be easily bought off by foreign governments, foreign Chinese energy companies, Ukrainian energy companies. So on January 21st, I will be filing articles of impeachment on Joe Biden.
Wow. Marjorie, if you're doing that, who will be making nauseating stepmom porn? Marjorie is part of the QAnon crowd who still blame the deep state for betraying Trump. Which, here's the thing, guys. Simple question. You believe this is all a conspiracy, I get that. But if you've watched any movie about anything like this, where do all the biggest conspiracies go all the way to? Do they go all the way to the middle? Do they go all the way to the pretty high? No, they go all the way to the top. Think about it. Doesn't it make sense? Donald Trump. Look at who he used to hang out with. Blood-drinking globalist pedophiles. They were at his wedding. Think about this. December 13th, 2016, a month before Trump is inaugurated. Who pays him a visit at Trump Tower? Bill Gates. That's right. Are you telling me Bill Gates didn't put a chip in him? Of course he did. He put a chip in Donald Trump. And not just a regular chip, he put a potato chip in him. All that crazy stuff he did, the potato chip made him do it. And why? To discredit Q. Bill Gates has been working President Pringles like a puppet for years. And now that they're done with him, they're taking his social media away. In addition to Twitter, Trump has now been banned from Snapchat. Donald Trump didn't even know he had a Snapchat, and now he's banned from it. All his sources of gratification are gone. No Snapchat, no Twitter, no Facebook. Poor Jared Kushner now has to shout like after everything he says. A number of major corporations have been putting out statements condemning the violence after a can of Axe body spray was found at the site of the Capitol invasion. Someone wrote, "Left by the mob, a lonely can of Axe body spray." That made the rounds online. So Axe responded. They wrote, "We'd rather be lonely than with that mob. Axe condemns yesterday's acts of violence and hate at the Capitol. We believe in the democratic process and the peaceful transition of power." And this is coming from a company that sells a product called Anarchy Body Wash, okay? Axe wasn't alone. Amazon, Hallmark, Airbnb, Comcast, many companies pledged to halt campaign donations to politicians who voted to overturn the election results. And many of them have also issued messages condemning the uprising. And one of those messages, this was one of the more powerful videos I saw.
Truth, integrity, honesty. These are American values. But the violent riots and lawlessness we witnessed in last week's shameful and seditious attack on the U.S. Capitol were a direct assault on our nation's most sacred tenet, the peaceful transition of power. We must preserve liberty at all costs, and Tootsie Pops will always stand up for what's right. Tootsie Pops. How many licks can democracy take? Let's not find out.
Your move, Skittles. All right, one more thing before we forge ahead. It's Thursday night. It means it's time to bleep and blur the big TV moments of the week, whether they need it or not. It is This Week in Unnecessary Censorship.
The president remains defiant as he faces his second impeachment. We're told he is considering himself and his children.
I've been here all of 1 week. And what I see, instead of lawmakers who are truth seekers, I see lawmakers who are seekers. And that's never good.
David Spunt reporting from the White House. David, you.
I always gravitated towards friends with big. That's what I want for myself.
A woman was caught trying to her husband on a leash after curfew.
Any snow for us?
I have a very small.
There's lots of stuff in the community center.
You're right. What if we use things from the community center to me with?
Yeah! Let's try!
Let's try!
Come on!
Jimmy Kimmel Live. This is ridiculous.